Hey everybody, welcome to Reclaim Futures. I'll be giving a talk on agro communes and a really quick talk about it, and then I'm looking forward to the discussion afterwards. So to begin, the project was based on past ethnographic research and theoretically based on the idea of commons defined here by political economist Eleanor Ostrom, where she quotes, "Commons are things existing in associations of regulated use by groups of human actors such as collectives, networks, and communities." This ongoing research project is to highlight this possibility of co-ownership in industrial farming, and its aim is to renounce current global industries that thrive on the extraction of labor, capital, and lands of others. So aggressive agricultural land development in the global south has really left entire continents displaced and marginalized from the global economy. This is a map showing how colonial tropes are still prevalent in Africa, where over 100 million acres of agricultural land are in a 99-year lease by Western and Chinese corporations. While famine still remains a fatal issue for the continent of Africa, its farmland is being altered to feed the rest of the world. The site of this project is specifically situated in Kenya and the surrounding area of Lake Naivasha, which is about an hour away from Nairobi. It's a rural area that has a historically fascinating wildlife and lake ecology, a very rich one where and often a site of these colonial ethnographic projects, anthropological projects such as Disney's Lion King. However, it's also seen a surge in greenhouses since the 1970s, sanctioned off by large territories of greenhouse colonies. 90% of them function as a flower farm operated by previously colonial companies, so, largely Dutch and Indian flower companies. So cheaper operations costs have moved foreign companies to occupy the lake, creating this horticultural hot zone that makes up a huge part of the economy in the local region. But also pesticides used to expedite flower growth is threatening the health of the lake, which is a major freshwater source for the area. It takes us back to this idea of the gap between how we as a Western consumer relate to extractive economies. More specifically, 30% of cut flower bouquets of Europe are produced in this region. In this sense, flower becomes a capitalist commodity that temporarily fill up our domestic space until it dries out. As it pertains to work, large-scale horticultural production shifted the local farm labor into a factory setting, as shown in this famous Bertinsky photo, to a flower packing plant, right? Change in labor force within industrial agriculture is parallel to how we focus on changing notions of rurality and landscape through farmland irrigation at the industrial scale. So what's the future of this environment? And how will we be able to respond to new farm labor as we adopt to smart farming or AI technology? And could this aid a farmer-owned co-op system that is autonomous from foreign companies, whereby technology is no longer a threat and more so used as a way to decentralize existing systems? The current production process of these flower farms is extensive, from growth to packaging, all the way to delivery in foreign lands. They're simultaneously being auctioned off in 24-hour Dutch auction houses in Alsmeer or Westland. And I'm interested in this international multiplicity. So this example of animal survival instinct was found during a flood, actually in the US, in Louisiana. And it's a display of parasitic and symbiotic relationships. Similarly, the project also focuses on creating a network based on existing systems instead of creating new ones. As architects, I take on both this idea of spatial and social aspects within the site. I utilize existing greenhouse structures as a grid within itself, which can host a variety of prototypes for flower production. On the farm scale, the production process was dissected to map out and collect elements of cut flower production, to define the necessary elements needed to create a smallholder farm that can self-regulate and bring this global industry into the local economy. As previously stated, much of this is based on previous field research where I looked at other successful greenhouse communities that currently operate on a smaller scale. There was a town in Iceland which has a really unique local economy of greenhouse farms, largely tomato farms, powered by geothermal energy, so going completely zero carbon. But while supplying much of the produce on the island, it also engages with tourism, such as this restaurant that is situated inside the greenhouse. You're literally eating amongst the production process, where the facility functions as a selling point. This process of production becomes a spectacle, even more condensed than this urban farm-to-table experience. So here you can see the deployed modular units that make up the farm operation. From incubation to growth, packaging and dispatch, the process of production and labor is in open rooms across the field of greenhouse structures. Interior images focus on the tension and overlap with tourist functions, such as the elevated walkway and agricultural space. Flower waste becomes upcycled here to produce packaging material. And in this sense, I'm really trying to lock down and follow through each process to see how each process can have its own function, both programmatically and also agriculturally. And but then in the regional scale, we have attempted to map out existing stakeholders on site, which later translates into the 4 territories. And this drawing is loosely based on a model of social farming, and I won't go too detailed into this resulting diagram since this, we're on a time. But we produce a series of relationships that support a collection of smallholder farms that operate on its own, which then can grow into a regional corporative entity. So it's really about creating a cooperative system that is both grassroots and top-down, not one way or the other, where there's a lot of things in motion and a lot of conversation happening, and in this way, a network is created that connects the territory and the industry for a cooperative that is autonomous and also commercially viable, right? Each production process is erected as functional monuments. And this is still the regional scale, where an auction tower doubles as an observation tower for the safari, or a rural street stop also is a deployment station for the cut flower goods that run on a tight base light, as they call it. In this case, a local flower market acts as a bus station, while the lakeside emergent swamps are protected by floating reefs, which cultivate fish breeding zones. Representation, in my mind, becomes crucial in speculative thinking. Through this mural, large-scale mural, quite large, we try to represent perspectives at varying scales. And this is kind of adopting the traditions from Asian scroll drawings, where There's really not one godly perspective, and it was sort of the only way to create a drawing that captured and expressed this non-linear narrative. This sort of illustrative drawings works for me to offer a non-absolute version of architecture, offering not one-off solutions, but various possibilities of application. And so to finish off, I asked this question of what is the possibility of an autonomous industry, right? When everything is so engulfed with capitalism. As a system, we question neoliberal divisions of human and non-human realities, and hopefully through these continuous speculative thought and thinking, we can create opportunities to connect the social, political, and natural worlds. Thank you.